All right. Oh my goodness, you are in for a very, very special treat today. I got the pleasure of meeting Danny Bauer back in 2017, I think. Danny, you may correct me, but at the joint conference between ESP and SSP out in Philadelphia. And I can tell you, such passion for growing leaders, just a brilliant mind, just we are all a best-selling author, national podcast, like multiple. But Danny, you're originally from Illinois, aren't you? Is that correct? Are you originally from the Champaign area? You'll have to
Yeah,
tell us.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. Chicagoland area. So I grew up in Palatine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, founder of Better Leaders, Better Schools, Danny, I'm going to turn it over to you because we just appreciate you being with us today. We appreciate all that you do for mentoring and coaching. I can't wait to see you again in person soon, and I just cannot wait to learn from you today. So let's go ahead and get started.
All right, that sounds good. Hey, everybody, good to see you all. Back in 2017, I don't know that I think I had any clue of what I was doing. So I'm glad that you seem to be had a positive experience, right? And thought I was passionate and all this kind of stuff. Now I'm feeling a lot better. So this is a really exciting opportunity. As you mentioned, I grew up in Palatine, went to school down at University of Illinois, taught in Chicago public schools forever. So this is a really special moment for me to serve leaders in my home state. So thank you again for this opportunity. So we will kick it off. Do you see the remarkable vision formula? Is that what it looks like on your screen? Brilliant. All right, cool. So my question starting off is like, how many of you would benefit from a positive reputation in the community, right? And you can wave your hands, you could use emojis or whatever. I could see some of that stuff. And then how many of you would like a just to create a remarkable experience on your campus, right? Probably a lot of you. How many of you would like both? Hopefully everyone here. And so if that's true, good luck. And good news is that that's exactly what I plan to share with you today. You're in the right place. And as Amy said, my name is Danny Bauer. I'm a principal development and retention expert, and this is the Remarkable Vision Formula. Now, when it comes to success, they say, is 80% of it showing up. And you're here right now, right? So I really want to start off with gratitude. I feel that, again, to serve leaders in Illinois. But the fact that you're here, you could be in a million different places, right? You could be doing a million different things. Some of you might be doing a million different things, but you're here right now. And I really, really, really appreciate that. If you've listened to the Better Leaders, Better Schools podcast, you probably heard me say this a million times. So this is a million and one, but this is my core belief. When you get better, everybody wins, right? And that's because I like to say that you're the lead domino. You are a catalyst. You cause a ripple effect within your community. And by pouring into yourself, by developing your skills, it's not a selfish act at all to take your own development and make that number one, because everybody benefits from a leader who gets better. That's the name of the company, right? Better Leaders, Better Schools. Like the promise is in the name. How many of you believe that? With a better leader, you'll become, right? You'll have a better school. And so that is the benefit, of being here right now and really engaging too. I know I'm talking right now, but there's going to be a lot of back and forth. And so I hope you are ready to engage with me. So one of the things in the chat, right, and either Amy, Dan, or Sue, feel free to read this out, but would you put your name and the most boring fact about you, right? I'm Danny. And the most boring fact, I think, is that I've gotten really good at flossing my teeth in the last 2 years. I was so sick of my dentist giving me a hard time about it. I made it a goal to do it daily, and I've done it. Finally, my mom is so proud. And so that's the most boring fact. I'll zip my lip, but Amy, Dan, and Sue, what do you see in the chat?
Amy jumped in right away. She was ready to go. I think she knew the question was coming. She just said she loves to sit alone on the couch with a book. There's nothing wrong with that, right?
Not at all.
Jump right in. How about everybody else? You still typing? Oh, here they come.
Yeah.
And I'm super duper good with wait time and silence. So don't worry about that.
We've
Oh,
got
I
folks.
like Jackie's. She
Yeah,
crochets. I
love
don't
the
think that's
crocheting.
boring.
Right.
Napping outside on a summer day. I'm with you, Corey.
Right.
Totally.
I love a good salad.
Yeah.
That's a great one, right?
Kim,
That is
Kim
outstanding.
Sinman, I have a dog. That's not boring.
Yeah.
Oh, Janice starts every day with a cup of tea.
Right. I'm left-handed.
Yeah, loves
I
to
don't
read
know if that's
education books. I think Yesenia was on our webinar earlier this week too. So she's a double dipper for IPA this week.
that's
Nice.
outstanding. That's great.
Cool. And listen, we'll keep things moving, but I use that question intentionally a lot of times, with icebreakers and that kind of thing. And I've done this in the past. And I like the question too, to be honest. What's your superpower? But not everybody's comfortable talking about their strengths, right? Some people are really, really humble and just it makes them uncomfortable. But if you ask, what is the most boring fact, right? And then you model it, pretty much everybody will answer that question. And so one thing that I hope you learn today, maybe you get some stuff about vision, right? That's why I'm here. But I hope you also pick up some things too you could use directly with staff development, right? With your teams and that kind of stuff too. So kind of on a meta level, just see what I'm doing and see what you want to steal. All right. So one more, and I'm actually I forgot to ask in the pre-call discussion, is it okay if like people come off mute and talk, right? That's fine. Yeah, cool.
Yes.
So I want to hear from some folks that are courageous, but what would make this time with me today a 5-star experience for you? That it was worth it that you spent time here with me.
Oh, you are good with wait time, Danny.
Oh,
Wait a
I'll wait for 20 minutes if I have to. Like, yeah, I mean it's totally good. Some people I could see are typing and that's totally fine. If you want to put it in the chat, if you're courageous and want to come off mute, feel free to do that too.
Hey, Danny, Bill shares how to bring people together to create a shared vision.
Okay.
Rachel talks about walking away with something to use. I think that's always really a great objective for people. After an hour, is there something I can actually think about doing immediately rather than a big strategic movement that I have to make? And while that may be part of it, but what is an actionable step? Learning something new. Yesenia wants us all and you to be authentic.
I'm wearing my favorite flannel today. I'm like, this is me, guys. This is me.
looking for both quick implement ideas and long-term ideas.
And I think for your sake, Danny, what's great to know about your crowd is that many of these individuals are new leaders. Some of them are veteran leaders. Some of them are mentors and coaches who are not only current or retired leaders, but also working to inspire and help these new leaders along the way.
Great. So for new leaders, veteran leaders, or the mentors, the coaches, has anybody read The Coach Habit by any chance by Michael Bungay Stainer? So that's something you might put in your book cart, right? One of the most fantastic books on questions and coaching. And I think we all have some sort of coaching role. So there's a practical one right there. I would love it if you read my book for sure. But check out The Coach Habit by Michael Bungay Stainer. I have a resource guide for you too. You'll see it at the end. And I'm making a note. I will link it in there too. So if you grab the resource guide, and I don't even need your email, it's just a QR code, then you'll have a link to that book. Okay. All right, great. So thank you for those. I heard bringing people together, walking away with something to use, something new, being authentic, that already, and quick and long-term sort of results. Great. Well, now that I know you a little bit, I'm going to introduce myself a bit more. Hey, I'm Danny, right? And I love Alba. Alba's my dog. That's like, a superhero for me. And we spend a lot of time together. She is the best. I consider myself a principal development retention expert. And so here's an example of some of the leaders that I've served, right, over the years. And so these are just lovely, lovely, what I call ruckus makers. I think Amy mentioned in the bio, right, bestseller. So I don't know if you've read Mastermind. Mastermind talks about and unpacks a concept that's called the ABCs of powerful professional development. I'm giving a keynote in Minnesota next week. I'm going to talk about it. But A is for authenticity, B is for belonging, C is for challenge. And when you integrate those things intentionally within your system, within your campus, you're going to see some really great stuff. Build leadership momentum. These next 4 books that I'm writing. So this one, Leadership Momentum, the next one on Vision, which is out. I'm going for very practical, 100 pages or less to get you a result, right? So if you feel aligned with anything that I shared today, you're going to love the next 4 books. You could read them in an hour, do about 3-4 hours of deep work, and have a significant outcome and result, within your principal or leadership role. So that next book is called The Remarkable Vision Formula. I think we have a few to give away. I hope I didn't surprise anybody or let the cat out of the bag. I believe that'll be a bestseller too. And I hope you enjoyed it if you pick it up. Are there any podcast listeners, in here? I'm just curious. So podcast changed my life. I started mine in September 2nd, 2015. And if you fast forward to today, just about 8 years later, there's over 2 million downloads. And you'll see here, the Better Leaders, Better Schools podcast ranks in the top 0.5% of all shows worldwide. That's not just in education. That's in any podcast you can find on the Apple Store or wherever you listen to podcasts, Spotify, whatever. I have a second show called the School Leadership Series. That's Monday through Friday, always 5 minutes or less. And that's about in the top 2.5%. So they've done okay. I've got 3 rules for today. So rule number 1, and you might think this is strange. Rule number 1 is don't believe a single word I say. Now, why would I tell you that? Rule number 1, don't believe a word I say.
Hey, Amy and Dan, we may have to call out some of our participants, especially those that we know.
Yeah, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it myself. So I'm gonna call out a guy that I've gotten to know pretty well already from Wheaton North High School. So Dan, why don't you just jump on in there and respond? Why would he say that for you?
Yeah, I just typed it into the chat. I wonder
Awesome, love it.
if you have to try it yourself to believe it.
I love it.
100%. Yes. And that moves us on to rule number 2. Thanks, Dan. Appreciate that. You got called out and you responded well. So rule number 1, don't believe a word I say. Rule number 2 is try it on, like Dan mentioned. You need to see if this works for you. It's worked for me when I'm teaching. It's worked for hundreds of leaders that I coach and mentor. I hope it works for you. I don't know. And I don't know your context, right? Sometimes being there on the ground, there's things that I would shift about my approach to better serve you. So really appreciate you, Dan. And then rule number 3 is have fun. Okay. So I hope that you all are having fun. If you're wearing a tie, maybe loosen the tie now. Maybe take the jacket off. It's totally up to you, right? I wore a flannel. It's okay, guys. Let's have fun. So those are my 3 rules. I want to start here with a little poem. I don't know if you enjoy poetry or not, but I love poetry. And I think it's a great way to access deeper ideas and content and wisdom. There's a guy named David White, and he's one of my favorite poets. And so this is a poem that I actually cite in my book, and the poem is called Start Close In. So David writes, start close in. Don't take the second step or the third. Start with the first thing. Close in, the step you don't want to take. Start with the ground the pale ground beneath your feet. Your own way to begin the conversation. Start with your own question. Give up on other people's questions. Don't let them smother something simple. To hear another's voice, follow your own voice. Wait, until that voice becomes an intimate, private ear that can really listen to another. Start right now. Take a small step you can call your own. Don't follow someone else's heroics. Be humble and focused. Start close in. Don't mistake that other for your own. Start close in. Don't take the second step or the third. Start with the first thing, close in, the first you don't want to take. And instead of discussing the poem, that kind of thing, I share that because I think as leaders, especially when we're doing big stuff, strategy, vision, right? It's really easy to get stuck by the immense gap from where your current reality is to the promised land, the ideal future of where you want to be. And you're thinking like, how can I get there? And that kind of thing. And maybe the one piece of practical advice you need today, one of my coaches has a brilliant idea. He calls it who, not how. Has anybody heard that idea before? Who, not how? If you have, do you want to share like what that is? Or what you think it means? It was really a game changer for me because as a high achiever, right? And probably everybody on this call is a high achiever. We go from goal setting to figuring out the plan, the to-do list right away, right? And thinking about all the steps. What one of my coaches, Dan Sullivan, says is think about a who that can help you achieve your goal, right? And that's a really like big idea that has unlocked so much for me, right? So who, not how. That's also a book. So another practical piece of advice in case you want to pick that up. And so don't worry about the second, third step. Start with the first thing close in, right? And sometimes it's a step you don't want to take. Now, when it comes to vision, there's an old proverb that says you write it down, right? I don't know if there's journalers here or I don't know how many of you, don't raise your hand, but how many of you think like, oh, I've already said it. I've sent the email. It's in the newsletter. We talked about it as a staff. So my people should know it. And now I get like upset when they don't like have a clue what's going on or they're doing different things, right? So this proverb says you write it down. And maybe I'll add in parentheses, communicated in a million different ways. The former CEO of LinkedIn said, people don't begin to hear you until you're sick of saying it, right? People don't even start hearing what you have to say until you're like, oh, I'm sick. I can't say it again one more time. How about that? So the proverb is write it down so that those that hear it will run. And once they hear it, right, and start running, now we've got alignment, which is exciting. Another thing too, like rowing in the same direction, right? Which is why I use this picture. So I would assert if you feel like people are doing things in different directions in your building, it might be indicative, like the root cause might have something to do with vision and communication, right? And so, and that's something, and the good news is you can fix that and you can get your team aligned. That's really hopeful. It's exciting to me. So I want to take some time. Looks like the timer's not going to work, but I'll just use it on my phone. So I want you to consider this question, right? And it's just going to be quiet. So camera on, camera off, like however you want to roll. I don't care. But I want you to write for 5 minutes. I'm coaching you to don't edit a thing. Don't judge it. Oh, this is stupid. It'll never happen. If it's a big idea, a crazy idea, the better. Okay. And I want you to consider 3 years out from today, November 9th, 2026. What's going on in your campus, or I know superintendents or central office people, what's going on in your system that you're thrilled with the progress that you see. Okay. Again, don't get into how to accomplish it. Just start painting a picture. All right. Will you do that? And I might check in with 3 minutes, just see kind of if you feel good about where you're at or if you want the 2 extra minutes. Cool. So cameras on, cameras off. I got my timer, so we are good. Thank you. Remarkable vision formula really has three parts. And my approach really with everything that I teach to folks, school leaders, when I say folks, it actually starts with that top circle, like you, the individual, which may be counterintuitive. But I realize even in really great districts, it's hard for them to meet and fulfill whatever needs you have. It's just too diverse, right? And they call it self-care. They don't call it district care. And if you're waiting for the district to take care of those needs, you're probably going to be waiting for a long time. And that's why I also share, right? Everybody wins when you get better. And so I push people within the remarkable vision to always consider what they need first. You can't pour from an empty cup. You've heard that, right? Maybe your grandpa taught it to you. You can't pour from an empty cup. So the second part, remarkable family, book will talk about that too. And even though I prioritize these when I'm coaching leaders, right, mentoring them, we're going to move on to remarkable school stuff in just a second. But just know that if you take this process seriously, you need to do you, then prioritize your family, and then move on to the school. Here's another thing that I've learned. I've worked with hundreds and hundreds of leaders, right, personally, probably mentored thousands, right, through the podcast and videos and stuff like that and workshops. But I know I've had coaching conversations in the hundreds. I won't tell you the person's name, but I'll never forget when a principal told me, Danny, I'm a better mom to my students than to my own children, right? Maybe you need to hear that right now. Maybe that's your reality. Good news is this person I'm talking about, we dug into that, figured out the root issues, what was causing her to be a great leader and great mom, in her words, to the students and not to her own kids. And we solved that, right? Now she's totally present and has a very fulfilling family life. But you need to take care of personal family before you get to school. Or again, you can't pour from an empty cup. Now there's 5 steps when it comes to remarkable vision formula. So you can see them here. I won't necessarily read them to you, right? But we talked about the 3 parts. These are the 5 steps in terms of how to actually do the work. And what I hope to give you today, especially because people talked about practical and that kind of thing, I'm going to give you some practical exercises and kind of go through this really fast, at least the steps. So retreat's important. Carl Jung had a place called Bollingen Tower, right? That was his place away from the busyness of life in like whatever that was, 1600s, 1700s, because they had iPhones and all the apps and all the distractions back then. But even back then, people got distracted. And he knew that he needed to find solitude and quiet to retreat. I'll tell you this, my first bestseller, Mastermind, the first draft sucked. It was bad. It's not good, right? That's what my editor told me. But what an amazing editor, because she was candid with me. And essentially was missing the framework, what became the ABCs of powerful professional development. But you know how I got to that idea? That dog that I love, Alba, and I would go to Berry Park here. I live in Syracuse, New York these days. Park is half a mile away from the house, goes around a nice, beautiful pond. It's in nature. It's just gorgeous. So I'd go out there undistracted, no devices, that kind of thing. And I would just let my mind wander. I would give over to my unconscious, right? The problems I wanted to solve. And that's when I got it. Okay. Came back, rushed back, outlined, sent that to her. And she said, now you got it. And the proof's in the pudding. It became a bestseller. So that was pretty cool. I don't know how many of you enjoy silence and solitude, but getting out in nature and undistracted is really powerful. Visualization is interesting. And, I'm not trying to be woo-woo about it or anything like that, but you have performers that visualize, right? Like a Beyonce is going to think about how she wants to perform that night. You have athletes for sure, see themselves making the clutch shot, or hitting the free throw. You have performers that visualize and empathize, like what's it like to be this person so they can get into character. So visualization is a very powerful tool as well, in terms of, I guess, getting into leadership character for your school. And we kind of did that already a bit with that journal question. If you needed more time to write, I'll invite you, to continue after the talk is done. Defining expectations. The funny thing about expectations is that we actually go to step 4. We seek feedback, and people don't even know what success is. So have you painted such a vivid picture for your team that they undoubtedly know what it means to win on your campus? And then after that, you can seek feedback, right? Something that I'm talking about in these 5 steps as well. Notice this is all done by you, the leader. It's not you and your staff right now. And this is a position that I take, and I hold it strongly. It's not your job to do this with your community yet. You were paid, you were hired to lead, so lead. So retreat, dream about it, visualize, have an idea of what success looks like. And now we're going to the team, trying to figure out, here's a draft. And you got to over communicate. Remember, people don't hear you until you're sick of saying it. You might, whatever it's called, watermark all your documents so that it's like really clear this is a draft. So nobody thinks that this is written in stone. What did I miss, guys? What do you see that I don't see? What fits? What doesn't? And then you go back and you revise and make it a bit better. And then the last piece, I have a saying, ideas are great, but not the greatest. And that's because action is better than ideas. So you got to implement. It's amazing how many people do the work, right? Or do the work of creating the plan and then never implement. Maybe because they don't want to be on the hook. Maybe they're afraid of failure. I don't know. But that action piece is really important at the end, of course, right? So let's move on to this idea called Dream 100. Has anybody read the book? I'm going to forget it right now. The Dream Manager. Has anybody read The Dream Manager? No. Okay. Maybe I'll put that in the notes too. Well, I'll save you the time. You don't need to read it. Here's the story. There's a custodial service. I think it's called Admiral Custodial or something like that. And basically, the custodial company finds that their people are not coming to the job, right? Not in the chat, not coming off mute, but just think, why are the custodians not showing up? What does your gut say? Do you have it? What's the reason? Don't put it in the chat. What Admiral thought is that, well, the job, honestly, it sucks. Who wants to clean the toilets? Who wants to do the garbage? It could be nasty, right? It doesn't pay that well. Depending on the shift, the hours can stink, right? The job can stink. Yeah. And so people just don't want to be there. And the leadership team was going on with that. And one leader had the courage to challenge that idea. And so this leader said, well, that might not be it, right? How about we go to the source, have a high proximity to the people dealing with the challenge. And let's ask them. Let's find out. Let's ask. So they do. And they find out that the folks don't have reliable transportation. This might be true in your community. And so many of the custodians don't own a car, and the public transport is not reliable where they live. Okay. So Admiral decides, all right, we're going to buy a fleet of vans. We're going to drive people to the work job, and that will make things better. And it does for a time, but it doesn't change everything. Like, it doesn't transform the whole culture overnight. People don't seem totally bought in just yet. So then they have this crazy, crazy idea. What if we create a position called the Dream Manager? And this person's role would be to deeply understand the hopes, dreams, and aspirations of everybody on the team, and would help these people make it a reality, right? You know, everybody that comes to your campus or your system, they all have hopes, dreams, and aspirations. They all have a reason for getting up that fires them up. Do you know what it is for your people, right? So the Dream 100 is a way, an activity, and the Dream Manager would be somebody who would get to know the people and hopefully make their dreams a reality. In my life, so in the book, there's a lady who wanted to own a house. She never owned a house, so they, worked on how to save. She saved up, got a house, and like, okay, and everybody's happy at the end. But in reality, the way I've done it, I remember Jess, who's actually a principal in Illinois. She wanted to mentor another, like a novice school leader. Guess who knows a ton of school leaders? So we put out a survey. Who wants free coaching, free mentorship, right? And I connected her to the tons of people that applied. And I said, come up with your criteria, how you want to select, and then we'll facilitate that relationship. Don't you think Jess got something from that, right? There she was, coaching and mentoring this novice principal. And the neat thing too is that principal grew and grew and grew. Then she ended up joining our leadership community, which is a whole nother story. So kind of cool. So when it comes to Dream 100, there's like a bunch of stuff that you could do. And I won't read these to you. I'll just highlight a couple, right? And so maybe I definitely want to stop judging people, right? That's a character one. The adventure, if you see that in the second column, I'm hosting a live event in Utah, and we always do 2 days of leadership training and a day of adventure. And so we'll be rappelling down canyons in Moab. Intellectual, my wife's from Zimbabwe. You might know that, maybe you don't. And so their mother tongue is Shona. It's a totally different language. And I've been taking language lessons twice a week for the last 2.5 years. And I'm getting like kind of scary good. I'm starting to impress people, which is really rewarding and satisfying for me. So those are the categories. You might consider screenshotting it. And then the other thing is here's a QR code. And if you want to download the Dream 100, it's totally free. It's an activity. And I'd love to invite you. You won't get 100 down. There's 20 categories, I believe. So 5 dreams per category, like I had here, equals 100 dreams. But the whole idea is, one, hopefully you have things to be excited about, right? Or if you haven't paused in a minute to consider what that is, now's the time. We'll do it for 3 minutes. And then the punchline would be, what do you know about your staff? And I've had leaders who have done this, it may feel awkward, right? I'm going to acknowledge that. But if you know the hopes, dreams, and aspirations of your team, and, maybe they want to go to fly to Japan, you're not going to be able to pay for their airfare. Well, I don't think I can't, right? But you could get them a travel book about Japan. You could check in, ask what it's like. Maybe it's on Duolingo and see like, hey, are you learning Japanese? Do you see what I'm saying? Right? Is this making sense? So that's just a Dream 100. So let me pause here and just see from the team, like, would you find value in thinking about that for 3 minutes? Just put a yes or no. I'm a big boy. I can handle it. And then Amy, Sue, or Dan, let's make this a democracy. If there's more yeses, we'll do it. If there's more no's, we won't.
We should have thumbs up, thumbs down.
Is that better?
From the Zoom options under your
Okay.
reactions.
All right, who wants to do it? Put your thumb up or thumb down. There's no right or wrong. It's just what you want. I'm here having a blast working with Illinois principals and leaders. This is great. I only see Sue's thumb. So were there any others?
Yeah, there's a few more. There's a few more, Danny.
Okay,
Yeah,
let's do it then. All right, just 3 minutes. You won't get them all done. And then Amy, I think I actually shared the document link if people didn't do the QR code.
I just put it in there.
You're the best. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Cameras on, cameras off. 3 minutes is gonna fly. Right? It's always great to connect with colleagues. And I want to share something really quick too that came up from a conversation with Corey, and I'm sure we all can relate. I told that story about the mom and just having more time, right? So the school circle could get big. So the guy who taught me who, not how, he also taught me in my life to think about time as free time, buffer time, and focus time, right? And he promised me, I run a business, right? So I'm not going to be bashful about that. He said, if you take more time off, you're going to make more money. That's a business outcome, right? Generating more revenue. And I'm like, man, how is that? He said, believe me, just start taking more time off. And I've been in the program since June or July. If you fast forward to whatever it is in November, including weekends, I've taken 53 or 54 free days. I track them. And, I'm not trying to brag or anything like that, but why do you think I was able to have a better business outcome and work less? What's going on there? And I didn't raise prices, right? So that's not the answer.
Were you able to work more effectively and get more out of the time that you spent?
100%.
More fresh?
Yeah. So I was more fresh, right? Because again, can't pour from an empty cup. So when I came back to work, I was more creative. And secondly, I stopped, well, not 100%, but I got really clear on what's a waste of time and what is most important, And so I would just like to suggest you all have, sick days and personal days and that kind of thing. No need to raise hands. I already know the answer, right? But use some of them, at least some, if not all. Take some time off, right? Take care of yourself. And if you get very clear on your priorities and give your best while you're at work, the school's going to be a better place for it. I promise you. I promise you. All right. We don't have much time left. So I just want to just highlight a couple of things and then we will wrap up. Really, really appreciate you all. So we talked about dreams. Like, do you know the dreams, hopes, dreams, aspirations of your staff? If you know them and help encourage them along that way, you're going to have better culture outcomes on your campus. Also, how do you identify your ideal staff members? So, my apologies. I gave you my best today. This vision formula thing. When I do workshops, it's 2.5 days, right? 3 days of content. But one of the things that I have for you in the resource that I got, it's called the School Leadership Scorecard, right? There are 7 categories, and within 10 minutes or less, you can identify the highest leverage areas for you to grow your leadership. So you can see the continuum. You're used to that as a rubric. I don't know that a lot of rubrics in education have the now and next column. So the now is where are you right now? The next is where do you want to be in 90 days? Okay. And don't lie. Don't say like you're a 3 for when you get better, everybody wins. You're going to be a 12 in 90 days. No, you're not. Right. So be reasonable. Like 3, try to go to a 5, go to a 6, baby steps. Right. And how does this connect to vision? Because I would love to see you consider what would it look like to create an ideal staff member scorecard for your campus or your system? And then what would it be like to send it to people before they even interview? And what if that guided some of the conversations, right, during the interview process? I think that's a winning idea. And so I just wanted to highlight that. If you want to dive deeper, just so you know, on the resource thing that I'm about to show you, you could book a complimentary coaching call and we could dive deeper into this topic or anything from today or anything that would serve you. When it comes to your remarkable school, if you choose to get the book from my website, you get the ebook, the print book, the audio book, and 5+ hours of when I taught this live for just $37, right? So I'm just going to put that out there. And one of the things that you also get is a 5-page document that has all these categories and more and the exact questions to ask to really create a robust, remarkable vision. Feel free, if you want to screenshot that, you can. I'm sure we'll send out the recording and maybe even I can get you a link to the slides. I'll put that in the resource thing too. So I know we had to go fast and not dive as deep as I would love to, but I really do hope you got something out of We briefly, like just a second ago, looked at categories. And the 3-year future progress question is how we started, which is also in the book. So in closing, like not necessarily an exit ticket, but if you want the resources, there it is. And it has my podcast, it has the book. We'll put that in an email as well. And it has the complimentary coach call if you'd like one too. So I'll leave that up for just 30 seconds. And would you do this for me as we close? If it's a hard stop, you got to stop in a minute. But I always love to hear like what was most important, most impactful for you today, right? So either off mute or in the chat, could you just let me know like what was the number one insight that you had from today? And I'm also going to put the resource thing in the chat. Thank you. It's been such an honor.
Hey, Danny, while people are doing that, I just want to say thank you. That Dream 100 activity that we spent about 3 minutes on, I really loved how that sort of mentally organized some thoughts that I've had, you know, as you're driving or you're thinking about, I want to do this or I need to do that. I love those categories. And man, I was working through that really quickly. And I'm like, now I got to finish that. I've got to finish that list and post it near my computer. I think that's awesome. And I love the idea that that's something that you could share with your team and you know, just getting feedback about individuals, the whole idea of that dreamer concept and really understanding people. We talk so much in principal development here at IPA about relationship building and knowing the people, that it's a people business and that learning and systems will come, but if you don't develop the people skills and the relationships first, you're just another talking head. And so, you know, I just love those ideas that you shared. I threw a few of those screenshots in our chat for all of you that are online with us today. Make sure you've signed in because I only have 21 people signed in. We had more than that. So scroll back in the chat if you missed the sign in, because in about 30 seconds, I'm going to have Danny pull some numbers and I'm going to turn my video background off because I can't show these 4 books that I got that are all personally signed by Danny on the inside of the cover. And so these just came literally in my mail today. And we thank him so much for his willingness to sign those books and get them sent on to us. We've got information that we'll send out to you following this. So without further ado, for our 4 winning folks, I'm going to have Amy, Dan, and Janice unmute. I'm putting them all on. And if we call out an IPA person, we're going to recall, which I think is only fair. But Janice, I'm going to start with you. So give me a number between 3 and 22.
4.
Number 4 is Rachel Davis. Is Rachel Davis still
There we
with us?
go.
Yay, Rachel, I see her.
Hey, Rachel.
All right,
And
Rachel, will
Sue,
you?
for everybody
Yeah.
that gets the book, you know, I'll give them the audiobook and the 5 hours of training, if, you know, too. I just need their email to get them that
Yeah.
stuff.
So Rachel, will you put your name, mailing address, if you're comfortable with that, and your email address in the chat? Or if you want, just put your email address in and I'll follow up so you don't have to put your mailing address in there. Just your name and your email address so that after the chat, I can get back to you. All right, we have our first winner. All right, Dan, I'm putting it on you.
All right, let's go with number 9.
Number 9 is Damon Belt. Is Damon still with us?
Oh,
Damon's one of our aspiring leaders too.
You know what? I'm gonna yeah, he is one of our aspiring leaders, but
the winner.
he logged in early, so I'm gonna reach out to him because I'm excited that he's one of our principal preparation candidates. So we want to make sure he's included. All right, Amy.
Number 3, and if this doesn't work, I'm just gonna call out something else.
You know what? I'm looking on the screen. Emma Cornelia, she's with us. There's Emma.
Oh, nice.
Yay! All right. Emma, you are our third winner. And Amy, I've got one more book, so just go ahead and call out another one. Whatever your concept was.
Okay, I can't remember the name for sure, but was it Dan that was the brave one that Dan called
Yep.
out?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
I
he
think
got
he deserves
Yes.
a book for being
he
brave.
deserves
All
that
right.
for sure. For
There
sure.
we
Thank you
go.
all for the book. Thank you
Yeah.
for the book.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So Emma and Dan, would you put your name and email address in the chat? And that way I'll make sure to get in contact with you and get these books in the mail too.
Cool.
Okay, wait, that's what I was trying to do. Let me see. She said I got to put my name, a book, girl, whatever.
You
She said my email address. I'm gonna put my email address.
Yeah,
Let's see.
that'd be great. Thank you. All right, Dan Kraus, back to you.
That's all good. Well, Amy and I, Danny, tremendous work, man, and thanks so much for being here and sharing so many great pieces. The greatest part was you agreeing in advance at recording this, because the nice part is then it gets shared with leaders throughout the state, and I'll say throughout the country, because we know folks tap into this and they watch the recordings, and it's super exciting. So, Danny, thanks so much again. Can't wait to connect with you in person, man. Love the work you're doing, and super awesome.
Thank you. It was such an honor. Appreciate you all. Thank you so much.
You.
Dan, do you want to give a PSA about our upcoming
Sure.
session?
Amy, you want to add anything there real quick?
You go. I don't have the dates in front of me. I'm sorry, Dan.
Sure.
I know you
No.
need to. Oh, here. Yes.
You're good. No worries. There we go.
No.
Did you want to with Danny as well?
I can go ahead with the dates. I know you need to jet.
All good.
So January 18th, our Shea Cooper, and if you had the privilege of seeing him at the IPA conference, one of the things that has stuck with me that he said is, don't step over the mess. Like if you come up on the mess, like clean it up because it just grows if you step over it and skirt around it. And love that. Of course, our Sparkle sister will be on Bhavna Sharmaluz on February 8th. So great lead webinars coming up. Please sign up. And yeah, Danny, thank you so much. You bring such a calm and focus to all of us, and it's just wonderful, and it's freeing to remind us that we need to take those opportunities to step away and let our brains have a moment to really focus and fill our cups again. So thank you so much. We greatly appreciate it.